Greetings, everyone. I'm Matrius Krystan, and today I just want to share a little bit of information with you that will maybe help you to understand why I'm always coming back to the magical BIF formula that we acclaim to at Ormes Temple in our presentation of our integral yoga or meditation techniques. There are so many different types of meditation. For example, there's the mindfulness meditation, which focuses on our inner observation. We're learning to watch our breath, feel our heartbeat, to watch different spaces inside of our body. But we're basically learning to observe within without getting involved with what's going on within, even down to our thoughts and emotions, just observing. They say, like, you observe clouds transforming from one image to another in the sky, so is your inner environment. And we're just learning to be that bridge, that observer within. Mindfulness meditation. There's also karmic meditation, which deals with focusing on our outward actions and the cause and effects of those. So we learn to try to become very intentional in what we're manifesting ultimately into our lives by becoming very aware of our actions externally and the internal responses to those. That's karmic meditation. There's jnana meditation, which is a focus on knowledge and principles, philosophies from the ancients that help us to grow and to awaken to self. So the wisdom, jnana meditation, is a focus on that. And notice all of them involve a particular type of focus, right? There's japa, which deals with focusing on sound frequency and how that affects us, as we know that everything in motion is what is responsible. You know, the motion, the rhythm of motion, the wave of motion is what is responsible for bringing potential or the seed of consciousness into an actually manifestation of a formulated image of that potential. So it requires that rhythm. So jnana is the meditation, japa is the meditation where we are using mantras in order to create vibrations within and around us in order to affect our lives, our growth, our healing processes, to open us up to the jnana, the wisdoms of the universe, so on and so forth. Japa, another focus on frequency. Kriya meditation is the focus of the divine energy source that is running through us, connecting us to the earth and connecting us to the universe all in one through our spinal cord. But this is not the energy of the nervous system. It's the energy of life that's running through us. So that's comparable to your computer. Like the nervous system and the endocrine system are comparable to your operation systems that are in your computer. When you first get it, allowing your program, your computer to turn on and to run and to do various things. But if you don't apply some sort of force to that computer, it will not run. You usually have to plug it into something to charge it up through your energy cord, and that's what the life energy is in your body. It's like that force that allows those operation systems, your nervous system, your endocrine system, your brain, your stomach, all your internal organs, your sensors, all of that to work, even down to the chemicals that are flowing in response to external triggers, very much like your computer. Now, that's Kriya Yoga, is learning to observe that force, that life force, as it's running through you and opening up to that. Actually, programming your body's nervous system to be able to pick up or sense the presence of the life energy as it flows through you. Kriya Yoga. And so it is a form of all of these are forms of realizing various aspects of the divine. It's sort of like all the blind men in the room with the elephant. One is checking out the elephant by touch and feeling his trunk and describing it. Likewise, another his toes, another his tail, another his side of his body. All of them describing them with these various descriptions based on how they're experiencing them. And these various forms of meditation allows us to broaden our ability to experience and know self, basically, from the perspective of the mortal physical body, self, and the immortal spirited soul, self, and how they come together. Now, when we start talking about how things come together, now we're talking about relationships. And that's what we're getting to when we're talking about Tantra meditation and Tantra Yoga, is understanding that once you come beyond that infinite zero point, which all the spiritual philosophies and religions refer to, I think in supreme mathematics, it represents it with the number zero or the symbol zero. In the Kemetic community, they call it Nuberture. I call it Nubertere, but Nuberture is fine. Let's see what we have. The Indian philosophy, they call it Brahma. In Islam, they call it Allah. The Christians, you call it God. Not to be confused with the Elohim or with the Lord God, but God, the initial sense. If we go beyond the religions, you might hear terms like the prime source, or you might hear something like the triple blackness, or the omniverse. That's another one, So there's all these various expressions in language that are relating to the same thing, which is that which comes before the manifestation of creation, So once that 0 point feels something of desire to move, to want to move, creating thought, creating energy, whatever, once that happens, now we've moved into a dynamic. So, and then there are systems within systems, on top of systems, encasing systems, sort of like the China dolls, just one on top of another. So many of them, infinitely many systems in the one divine, which we mean now we've moved from the zero to the one where creation is now happening, because now we're into a system that is, we call divine. DI in a word, relating to dual or two, okay? Divine, divide. You think of the words, okay? And then vine, as we see used in various scriptures and poetry, the vine is often related to a particular type of system. So when we say divine, we're talking about a dynamic system. And just to break it down to you, when I use the word dynamic, I'm meaning something a little bit in a different context than using the word dual, okay? Both of them we're applying the two, but in dynamic, I'm speaking specifically of the perception of the two existing within the one, okay? So first we're beyond that, in that 0 point, and then, something happens there, and from that point on, it becomes a dynamic system, or divinity, divine, okay? So when we are moving into the study and practice of Tantra Yoga, including the practice of the various tantric meditations, the tantric rituals, the tantric lifestyle, we're now talking about the practice and the pathway of learning and growing to understand the relationships in the dynamic of the two existing within any given point of the singular. How does electricity and magnetism work together? They're on the opposite ends of the spectrum as far as what they are, and can easily be seen as two separate things, or we can decide to observe them as two things that are working together within the one. That's dynamic in my reference. You can go somewhere else and they'll talk about it. They might call it duality. They might call it anything else. But for the reference of our understanding each other, that's dynamic here at Ormes Temple. Duality is referencing the idea of two separate, okay? So we carry that concept of the dynamic experience into our physical realm between men and women. We're beginning to observe, for example, how these two sexes, sexual genders, are working together, how they were created to work together. Okay, now we can break that down because now we are celebrating many different kinds of genders, gender orientations. People are on many different paths and many different points along the path. So if we want to break that down internally, how does the masculine and the feminine work together within you? Because we all have that. It's even referenced that the sexual genders is a thing of the body. But now we've expanded because now we're seeing how it affects us from levels beyond the body, deeper than the body. From the mind-body complex, yes, but also from the spirit consciousness complex that exists within us. That's another dynamic. There's the consciousness that holds the various intelligence that defines, names, or calls out of the nothingness an infinite array of potential. But potential means doesn't exist yet. Potential means it could exist. Okay, so now it's just in potential form. But this is what consciousness does. Now I just said the word does. So now I'm implying that consciousness moves in order to do anything. So in that consciousness, now we see the dynamic of the feminine presence of energy or spirit, okay? So it's just like in the Christian Bible, they would say in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And everything that was created by the Word, and there was nothing that was created other than by the Word. It goes on like that. But in the beginning, there was the Word. So the beginning of what? Well, they're talking about when you leave from the 0 point to the beginning of this creative process, where we come into this whole limitless and expansive creative experience that is on layers and layers and layers of dimensions and so on and so forth. But we're talking about coming into that creation. That is the beginning. So in the beginning, there was the Word. The Word implies a consciousness to name something. Whether we're naming it in our thought, in just pure thought, or we're applying verbal vibration to it, we're naming. Consciousness does that. That's the seed. But of course, as soon as we name, now we've created an action. That's the energy. That's the feminine. And they applied it as such, named it as such, just looking at nature and seeing that, okay, the male mammals out here, male plant life, male insects, I guess you would say, but I'm going to stick to what I know and just keep it in the mammalian form. So in mammals, it is the male that carries the seed of life. He implants that seed into the womb, which nurtures it, energizes it, gives it life by this vibratory power that it feeds it. And thus that seed comes into a living form. So this is why they describe it in this way, that consciousness is masculine and energy is feminine. And that we can take that into a lot of other representations of how we look at masculine and feminine. This is just one of them that I'm sharing with you from a very basic tantric perspective. Okay, so when we're talking about the energetic vibration that can bring potential into being, then we're talking about the dynamic between the God and Goddess presence in nature. So in Kemet, they called what the Europeans called deities, or defined as gods and goddesses, in order to try to indicate that there was a polytheistic perspective on their religion or spirituality. Kind of missed the ball, because what they were calling all these symbols were Netcheru. The U at the end, the U, makes it plural. The singular is Netcher, and Netcher can be brought down into our modern language, since the Kemetic language did influence Greece and Rome, the Romantic languages and so on. We do have a word that sort of relates to Netcher, nature. So they're talking about our symbols that represent for us various natures in our life experience. And they carry them out to natures that exist before the human experience, such as the natures of laws, like the Ma'atic natures, the nature of balance, the nature of air and of moistures, Chu and Tefnut, the natures of intelligence, Asar, the natures of the throne to hold that intelligence, the embodiment to hold that intelligence, Aset, the nature of passion and drive, Nebethet. So you see, there's many of them. And what they're actually doing, this was their system of education. And I think personally, it was very eloquently done, because by using these symbols and then conveying in spoken word these principles, they were actually teaching by what Ormes Temple is now working with, a dynamic learning approach that will incorporate the functioning of both the left and the right brain, frontal lobe brains, for a very strong frontal lobe. You understand, in learning, we have the animal instinct down at the lowest part of the brain. We have the egoic complex, which is learning by just taking in a lot of data, and the brain can organize it and build from that. And then we have the willful aspect of being able to choose and to be able to draw in inspired information, even beyond which is given to us through the five senses. We can tap into the universe and be inspired with something that's not been there before in any particular given way. So we are looking at this dynamic learning approach and how to apply this to our young children so that we can really open up their hardware system, their hardware software system, but their hardware neurological system, to better be able to take in and process and give out information from not only a perspective of academic repetition, but also from a creative and expansive growth perspective. Dynamic learning approach is what that's about. And we got it from observing our ancestors back in Kemet and the way they were teaching back then. So I had kind of gone away around the bush to kind of tell you about that, but I want to come back to, again, why it's so important to really focus on the teachings of how I'm trying to get you to use your breath, intention, and focus. So if you watched my earlier video about the basic breath, intention, and focus dealing with our heart-based mindfulness, you may remember that I showed breathing. Let me see if I can get this to you so you can see it. Yeah, I was showing you some charts that kind of showed you an image of how the breathing goes, okay? So if you can recall, let's see if I can just get this in a place. Yeah, this looks pretty good. If you can call, I was asking you to take in a deep, long breath in so that you could visualize energy coming up from the earth through the first chakra, sorry, and then the second chakra, the third chakra, and then up to the heart, okay? And in this image, I'm showing you approximately where those chakra gates are at inside your spine. Now, the chakra gates have kshetram or trigger points coming up the front of the body because their energy actually funnels outward and it funnels off the back as well. You could say that it's extending out omnidirectionally all the way around the body. So you have the trigger points so you can feel into your heart chakra by placing your hand over your chest or over your navel for the solar plexus, over your pelvic ridge for the second chakra. And you can actually feel it or just intentionalize it by thinking about, for men, up above your perineum in your body, about half of your thumb width up into your body. For women, about where your cervix is in your uterus. This would be where your first chakra gate is. And the others all in the spine, coming up through the cervical spine and the throat. And then your first eye is here close to the pineal gland. And then you have your crown chakra, which actually exists a little above the head. Okay, but you have the opening here in the crown, and you're probably familiar with that soft spot that's in your head, right? Actually, it sits just a bit towards the back. Okay, so as you're breathing, I'm asking you to intentionalize or envision energy, a flow of energy coming up through the earth, through each of these chakras to the count of 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then to hold just slightly, maybe hold for the count of 1 or 2, and then continue to inhale some more. So remember, breathe slow enough so that when you get to this point and you pause, you still have the capacity to take in more air. So then as you're breathing in, you want to visualize that you're breathing in energy from the universe coming down through your crown and settling right here at your first eye at the pineal gland. Then you want to hold. Okay, so let's say that was the count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, the count of 7. 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a pause. 6, 7. Okay, and then you're going to hold for maybe about 12. If you can hold for 14, great. If you can't make a 12 count and you hold for 10 or 8, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Do not force it because you don't want to strain your lungs. You want to just let them develop naturally. And as you continue to practice, that will happen. Now you can see here, as after you hold for your count of 8 or 10 or 12 or 14, whatever you manage to get to, Now you want to take a little quick breath in, and then you want to breathe out. So you want, as you breathe out, to visualize the energy coming from the first eye out through your imaginary beak, which is arcing down into your heart chakra. See that? So what I'm asking you to do here is, as you're breathing out, focusing your visual, your inner gaze through your brow center. Kind of your eyes roll back a little bit, and you're actually looking with your first eye. There is an actual inner eye. There is a nerve condition set up here that processes photons or light. That is an eye that exists here in the pineal gland. So we want you to use that. So your eyes may roll back a little bit, but your inner gaze intention is coming through the brow center. And as you're exhaling, you are envisioning or using your intention to follow that energy stream down and into your heart chakra. Exhaling completely, bringing all the energy into your heart chakra. And even then, let's see, I'm trying to fix this. There we go. And even then, you might be breathing out and you get to the heart chakra and you're just seeing that emerald green light that is natural to the heart chakra gate, just intensifying and expanding. So you're feeding that. Now, really what you're doing is you're breathing that energy down from the universe. You're bringing in the potential from the field of potential, which we call the Asarian field, So as that comes in, it processes at the first gate here coming down, which is the Jehuti system, which is the nature of wisdom. So what happens is the potential is transforming into thought. So as your first eye opens up, people will report, of course, seeing a lot of purple because that is the frequency resonating at this area. But what they will also talk about seeing are a lot of symbolic images, a lot of geometric designs, and sometimes they see formulas. And they see symbols of other things. And people will say, well, I wish that the divine would speak to me in a language that just speak to me in English, something that I understand. But actually, you're feeding into this pineal gland here, and it's receiving this information, and it's going to the heart, okay, to now gestate here. It will come up then and be born through your throat gate, your throat chakra gate, as an expanding input of information coming in from the divine, and thereby affecting the way you express yourself. This is the process of the divine birth, okay? This meiotic quality in the heart acts like the Virgin Mother in receiving the divine seed, and then giving birth to it as it gestates through the throat chakra, which is of what we could say Christ consciousness, Krystan consciousness, what in Kemetic we call the Nehast experience, or where the Heru, the original Yeshua, the Heru now takes on the qualities of his father, which are in the duat, or which are in heaven, and becomes the physical expression of that totally. So this is the divine or immaculate birth that's happening here, originally brought forth on the Kemetic temple walls. Okay, so now the importance of following this with your breath, intention, and focus is that you're beginning to program your body's operation systems, your neurological functions, your endocrine functions, your sensors, be it what you see, what you hear, smell, what you feel, what you taste. All of that is being tuned in to this inner system of your immortal spirited soul, okay? And this is the actual first intimate relationship that is going to mean anything in our life experiences. if we don't know this relationship between the physical embodiment, our vessel, our car, so to speak, our glove that we fit into that's like a computer, if we don't know the relationship between that and our true spirited soul, our true self, which is born from the interaction of the divine natures of heaven, and the body is born of the divine natures of earth. If we don't know that relationship and we do not learn love in that perspective, we cannot reflect it, we cannot attract it, we cannot experience it on the physical plane. It has to happen internally first before you can start to manifest that externally. So that kind of gives you a basic understanding of why it's so important to really focus on this. Because, I'm sure everybody's like, that's a really complicated breath technique. Up, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 5, 6, 7, hold, up to 10 or 12 or 14 counts, and then exhale and breathe out through this imaginary beak and send this energy from the universe into the heart, this potential seed from the universe, into this energetic heart, this womb, to nurture it so that I can be born again. This is the mechanics of it. Okay, and we've talked about this in many of our religions. Definitely the presentation of Christianity in the West has covered this. But this is the mechanics of it. And please be clear, I'm not challenging any religion. I'm offering you a practice to help you deepen your religious and spiritual experience. And these are things that were shared earlier on in Christianity. You can find information similar to this in the books of Thomas, some of the books that didn't make it into the Bible. So there's esoteric teachings and there's exoteric teachings. Esoteric meaning the inner teachings. This is the meat. And then the exoteric teachings is what we usually get. That's for the general populations. Just teaching us how to be able to live by a few laws so we can survive long enough, contrary to what maybe our animal nature and egoic complex might have us to do, that we can learn some inner discipline to gain the awareness to actually gather this experience for this inner second birth or resurrection of our true divine self in the flesh. Okay, so that's all I got for you today. I would love it if you would give me some comments, post some questions. If you have anything, give me something to work with. I'm slowly gathering together materials that I'm going to be offering on the website, and I hope that when I'm finally able to pull all that together, that you will follow through and come in and partake in some of our events, workshops, meditation circles, and things like that. In the meantime, namaste, hotep, ashe. Matris Krystan, Ormes Temple.